What if I told you that two peaceful democracies fought a 50-year war, with whiskey? In the Arctic Ocean, between the sovereignty of two NATO allies, sits an uninhabited rock that's been the center of the most civilized conflict in modern history. Welcome back to the Map Mysteries. I'm the Mist, and today we're diving into the incredible story of the Canada-Denmark Whiskey War, a diplomatic crisis so polite it involved leaving each other drinks. Let's start with the basics. Hans Island, or Tartupaluk as it's known by the local Inuit, is a tiny, rocky outcrop right in the middle of the Nares Strait. This narrow channel separates Canada's Ellesmere Island from the northwestern coast of Greenland. The island itself is just 1.3 square kilometers, roughly the size of 200 football fields, and sits almost exactly equidistant from both nations. This precise, inconvenient placement is where our story really begins. In 1973, Canada and Denmark signed a maritime boundary treaty. They successfully mapped out a massive border, but when they reached Hans Island, they hit a snag. International law often uses a median line, but the island fell squarely on it. Was it Canadian territory? Danish? Unable to decide, they simply left a gap in the treaty map, leaving the island's ownership completely undefined. Think about this for a moment. We're talking about a barely habitable rock where temperatures drop below -40 degrees, winds can reach 100 miles per hour, and for most of the year, it's shrouded in ice and darkness. For centuries, it has been part of the traditional hunting grounds for Inuit people who have navigated these waters with deep environmental knowledge. Yet, on paper, you'd think both countries would just say, "You take it," but neither would budge. Everything changed in July 1984. That's when Canadian forces, led by their Minister of National Defense, decided to make the first, rather spirited, move in this territorial dispute. Canadian soldiers sailed to the barren rock of Hans Island. They planted the Canadian flag and left behind a bottle of Canadian whiskey with a cheeky message that basically said, "Welcome to Canada from your Canadian friends." It was a bold, if slightly boozy, statement. But the Danes weren't having it. Just 3 weeks later, Denmark's Minister of Greenland Affairs arrived personally. He replaced the Canadian flag with a Danish one and left their own bottle this time, a fine Danish schnapps, along with a note saying, "Welcome to the Danish island." And so, a tradition was born. For nearly 40 years, whenever one country visited, they'd remove the other's flag and leave their national beverage. Canadian whiskey versus Danish aquavit. The exchanges became a running joke, a polite, passive-aggressive ritual played out in the high Arctic. The international media loved it, dubbing it the Whiskey War, Schnapps War, and the Friendly War. Neither country ever escalated beyond flag removal and liquor replacement. This was diplomacy by beverage, a conflict where the only casualties were empty bottles. The most incredible part? This went on for 5 decades. Imagine the official planning that went into these missions. Okay, team, we need to sail 400 miles north into Arctic waters to replace a flag and leave a bottle of Canadian Club. It's the most polite Cold War in history. After decades of playful posturing, in 2012, both countries finally said, "You know what? Let's actually solve this." Formal negotiations began, kicking off a decade-long process of careful diplomacy to untangle the knot once and for all. The solution they reached was elegantly simple: split the difference. Denmark would receive about 60% of the island, and Canada the remaining 40%. For the first time in history, Canada and Denmark became direct neighbors, sharing a 1.2-kilometer land border. At the signing ceremony, the foreign ministers symbolically exchanged one last set of bottles, officially ending the Whiskey War. The beautiful irony? The treaty was signed in June 2022, just as Russia invaded Ukraine. While one conflict turned deadly, 2 NATO allies peacefully resolved a 50-year dispute. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The Whiskey War ended not with conquest or defeat, but with compromise. 2 peaceful democracies proved that even the stickiest territorial disputes can be solved with patience, diplomacy, and apparently a lot of alcohol. So here's my question for you. What other friendly conflicts do you know about? Drop your favorites in the comments, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button because we've got more geographical mysteries coming your way.